Welcome, friends. This is Brevity Sports, coming at you from our caves where we talk major news in major sports. Here with my co-host, Big Z, and myself, Fredo Lay. To another episode here with Brevity Sports. We have a fun episode coming for you. We are, as always, we just said it, we're in our caves. I'm joined by my boy, Big Z. Say hi to the people, Big Z.
What is up, people? What is up? Me and Fredo Lay, we went to a couple Dodger games this weekend, and we had some good old fun, old-fashioned Dodger fan fun. Caught some Dodger dogs, and I was yelling at Ryan Stanek of the Astros, who had like the biggest meltdown I've ever seen an MLB pitcher have. Like, he was doing like the Hulk thing, just if you can see it on YouTube, he's just like, he has his arms like this, and he's no, while he's walking off. I was like, dude, not even my toddler has tantrums.
He's throwing
like
a tantrum.
This.
He was throwing a tantrum on the mound,
and it was for those of you who don't know, he got called for a balk, and it was a clear balk. Like, there's just no doubt about it. By the rule, it's a balk, and it
wasn't even close. It wasn't even close to not a balk. He stepped on the rubber and came set. Like, whether or not that was his natural position, whether or not he had been throwing with one foot behind the other, because there's arguments. I saw all sorts of argument, going all over the internet. Like, he wasn't throwing the ball with his feet apart the whole game. It was like, no, it doesn't matter. Whenever you come set, whenever you stand still looking at the batters, like you are about to pitch, the ball is either going to the catcher or you got to step off and fire that puppy to first. But something has to happen. You cannot just, reset. Never mind. This is a little league. No, that was the best part is that it was a clear cut block. That was the best part. Hands down.
Yeah. And it's like all the Astros fans, complaining about it. I'm like, well, I wouldn't expect you guys to know the rules anyways, or to abide by them, even if you guys knew the rules. So,
that's fair.
Just move along.
That's fair. And for those listening, you're like, oh, we got Dodger fans going. Like, we've been encouraging baseball. If you go back, before you call us biased, go back and listen to other podcasts. We've given praise to the Diamondbacks. We've given praise to the Rays. We've shouted out the Reds. We've shouted out the Brewers. We're just big baseball fans. I won't lie, though. We do hate the Astros with a burning passion.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie.
Thousand suns.
It was fun booing Altuve and Bregman.
For
every
sure.
time they went at bat, even when Bregman hit a grand slam, I was booing the crap out of him. It was great, man. Like, it was a fun time for sure. And the fact that the Dodgers had made the Astros bullpen implode the way they did, it was even better. It was even better.
And I'll tell you this, this was not planned. This is not planned at all. But I think what makes it worse for those listening, what makes this worse for me, for sure, is there's great stories like about Alex Bregman. Like, there's a story that came out about him playing at LSU, and the fact that he actually got, I don't know how true this is, but he actually got like the key card system changed there because they were so tired of having him call to like unlock the batting cages at like midnight. Like, this dude's work ethic was unrivaled. It was unparalleled. Well, he was at LSU. He was such a highly touted prospect. Everybody knew he was going to ball, and he did ball. And that's what makes it worse. When you find out, that you're heroes, when you find out that those who have the talent cheat, that talent for them wasn't good enough. And it's like, now you've thrown away all your credibility as well. And so that's what makes it harder pill to swallow. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. What we are talking about tonight, we are talking some NFL. Yes. We're talking some NBA, because the NBA just been crazy. It's just been crazy. I thought when the finals were done, I could stop pretending to be like a huge basketball guy. And then you sucked me in, Big Z. All of a sudden, I'm following Waj, and he's like telling me about all the different. He's like, oh my God, this guy just ate like a peanut butter and jelly upside down with a pickle inside of it. I'm like, oh my God.
The NBA is year round. Like, the last few seasons, I would say it's become more of a year round thing. They're really, really trying to compete with the NFL. And I love it. I'm here for it. Sometimes I think the off season is better than what the product is like during the regular season, like the actual games during the regular season.
When guys are sitting out like every 3 days.
Exactly. So
it makes you forget. Makes it better. It makes you forget. And of course we're gonna talk some MLB. That's just how we do it. That's just how we do it. That's how we talk. But before we get to the MLB though, Big Z, we already got some beef stew. Somebody is already stirring the beef pot. You know what I'm saying? Travis Kelce comes out, responds to Jamar Chase, who comes out and says, Joe Burrow is the best NFL player. He is the dude. He is the guy. Kelsey comes out and says, dude, don't ever disrespect Patrick Mahomes. These are two teams. Now, usually I understand if somebody's listening here, like, why does this matter? Sometimes this might not matter, but because it's these two teams, because it's the Chiefs and the Bengals, and this has been the AFC championship matchup. This has been that. Like, there's all sorts of fun talks, right? We could talk about the Lions, right? We could talk about, the Dolphins. We could talk about, whatever else we want to talk about. We could talk about some of these other teams that might come on. We could talk about the Jaguars, right? We could talk about some of these teams that might do really well, that might do some really fun things as the season progresses. But as of right now, if you want to get to the AFC championship or you want to win that AFC championship, as of right now, it's either going through Cincinnati or the Chiefs with the Bills right behind. So for these two teams to already be talking that beef, I know it kind of started last year, right? With the coming out and calling it like it was like Burrow Stadium or something like that. Or remember what it was called? The Burrow something. They called the Chiefs
Burrowhead.
Yeah, Burrowhead. That's right.
Arrowhead is the Chiefs Stadium. So they called it Burrowhead. Yeah.
You buying into this? Is there like a rivalry starting to, because it seems like there's been some level of respect on the field. Do you think a rivalry is brewing?
I think so. And I think that it brings this baby rivalry to the next level. Like you said, these teams have faced each other the last two AFC championship games. Both games have been super close. It's 1-1. Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow are the top QBs in the league, in our opinion. I think we share that same sentiment. And I love this, man. I love what Chase is doing. I also love what Kelsey's doing. Chase is defending his quarterback. And a lot of times you get a lot of wide receivers, when they lose, they kind of turn their back on their quarterback, kind of like what Stephon Diggs is doing right now with Josh Allen. Right. But Jamar Chase has said, hey, dude, I got your back. I don't care what Patrick Mahomes has done. You're my guy. I'm your guy. We're going to do this thing. So I love that he has his back and that he's willing to, put his head on the line for this. And I also love what Kelsey's doing. He's just saying, this is a quote. He says, it is what it is, dog. Who doesn't love some good locker room banter? Shout out to Jamar Chase for holding down for his QB, but don't ever disrespect Pat Mahomes. If you want to talk your crap, and then just better back it up. And that's great. Like, he goes straight to the point. So he's backing up his guy and also saying, you better back it up. So I think it's going to be great. I'm not sure if they play each other this season in the regular season, but I'm almost positive that they're going to face each other again in one of the rounds of the playoffs, just depending on where their seeding is. But I think just adds another layer to this little rivalry and I think that now we can start calling it like an actual rivalry, because you have to have some drama off the field, right? For it to actually be in a rivalry. So I think it's great for the game. It helps the NFL market itself. The Kelsey brothers are talking about it on their podcast. It's going to be all the locker room talk in the training camp for both teams. And I just love it. And the funny thing is that Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow haven't really said anything. Like, it's just their guys backing them up. But that just shows you how respected they are in their locker rooms. Both the teams love their guys, right? And they're willing to do anything for it. So I think it's awesome.
100%. It's going to be great. And they do, in fact, play each other. The Bengals and the Chiefs play each other 12/31 December, something to look forward to right around New Year's.
So a seeding, it could.
This is like the second to last week. This is like the last week that typically matters. We all know that last week in the NFL, that's why a lot of fantasy football championship stops the second to last week. Like, everybody kind of sits. The seeding's already kind of locked in. So this is the second to last week. This could be for first place. It's at Arrowhead or Burrowhead if you're a Bengals fan, however you see that. It's at that stadium. It's going to be a good one. Right now, I will say this is kind of weird. CBS has that game right now slotted for the 1:25 time slot, like on the West Coast. So that'd be the 4:25 game. So I guess that makes sense. But you think that would be like Sunday Night Football? Like, you think that would be like the big, like,
depends. They could probably flex it or something.
You would think it would just be a primetime game.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the prime time is of that week, though. You should check that.
Well, plus, I mean, I guess East Coast, you could also check it out because then if it's 125 my time, it's 425 their time. So I guess I see it a little bit, but I mean, still, you think it would be given that prime time love because I think the ratings for Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football have kind of spoken for themselves. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, no, I love that podcast that the Kelsey brothers have. I love the back and forth. And like you said, I think it's great that both these guys are getting each other's backs. Like this is what you're supposed to do, right? Like my dude is the best. My dude, like neither one of these guys is ever going to come out and be like, no, their guy is the best. Like that doesn't make sense, right? That means that this team has gotten the better of me. And really, when you look at it last year, Patrick Mahomes dominated Burrow in every major statistical category. He had more touchdowns. He had more yards thrown. They had the same amount of interceptions. Having said that, I mean, right now, the record doesn't lie. Burrow is up 3-1. So, it goes both ways. I still think Pat Mahomes is obviously the better quarterback. I think much of the NFL does. He is the dude.
He is.
But I love these guys getting their quarterbacks back. For sure.
Burrow's right there. And yeah, this game's going to be definitely flex, dude, because the primetime game, the MC game that night is Packers at Vikings. So they're going to for sure flex this one in that spot and then move the Vikings and Packers up because
boy, Packers, Vikings.
No.
Come on, son. Come on. So
Aaron
who like
Rodgers
what?
Isn't here anymore. Come on.
Aaron Rodgers, you got a Green Bay team that's going to be sub 500 easy and a Viking team that didn't get any better has only really gotten worse. I mean, I'd be surprised if they were running away their division. Like they're not going to run away with that division like they did last year. It ain't going to happen, Calvin. You got some good young teams in that division. Come on, son. It's not. Stop it. All right, moving right along. We got the footballers. I thought this would be kind of fun. The fantasy footballers. If you guys don't know, they have this awesome podcast. Fantasy footballers. Their website is amazing. They have this incredible draft kit. No, we are not partnering with them. No, they did not pay me to say that, but I love listening to these guys. I don't always agree with some of the stuff that they're saying, but I do love listening to them. They do so much homework. It's insane. Like their fantasy football knowledge is crazy, but it's still fun to critique them. I feel like sometimes they can get wrapped up in the numbers and they just kind of stop watching like what's actually taking place. Right. So some of their rankings, it just seems like you're being a little bit too statistical with this thing. Like
reaching.
Look at what this player is. Like let's look at what this dude is. So the QB. Tell me what you think of this, Big Z. I want your thoughts. Right. So they got Allen at number 1.
Yeah.
So we're saying Allen's going to be the best fantasy quarterback you could have. And for those of you who don't know, fantasy football, if you're not playing it, start playing it. And for those saying, I don't know about fantasy football or I don't know that much about players, it doesn't matter. Find a league and start playing. It makes it. Yeah, football, it's way more fun. Keep listening. It's so much fun. And then, when you're out with your friends or you're out with that dude or you're out with that gal or you're out with whoever you're out with, like it gives you something else to talk about. It just makes it really fun. So Allen is number 1, which, we'll talk about in a second. Then just in order, you got Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Burrow, Herbert, Fields, Jones, Lauren, and Watson. And just to give us perspective, the top 4 last year at the end of the year, Patrick Mahomes still had the most, followed by Allen, followed by Hurts, followed by Burrow. And then there was everybody else, like 50 points below them, right? So Big Z, just like top 10. What do you think about that?
Well, just off the bat, how the hell is Daniel Jones ahead of Trevor Lawrence? Like, I
don't know.
I know. Okay. I know that Daniel Jones, he runs a lot more than Lawrence. So when we're talking about fantasy value, it's a lot different than value to a team, right? And how valuable, like, I think this, if you're just looking at top 10 QBs in the league, just straight football games, yeah, there's no way that Jones is ahead of Lawrence, but I think this is obviously meant for fantasy football. So off the bat, I was like, whoa, these guys are crazy. Like, this is not reputable. But then I realized that Jones runs so much more than Lawrence, and ground yardage gets you a lot more points. So that may even out, and he's only 1 spot ahead of him. That's okay. That makes sense. Justin Fields is way too high for me. I think that Justin Fields should be out of the top 10. At this point, he is number 7. Justin Fields hasn't proved anything to me yet to be a top 10 QB, even fantasy wise. He has the skill set, but is DJ Moore going to be the guy that's going to bring him into the top 10? I don't know. The Bears, I think this is a make or break year for him. Yes, they've gotten some weapons around him, a better offensive line, but maybe you can be a top 15. But there's plenty of guys that below him, below the top 10, that I think could be him. Geno Smith, Dak Prescott. Yeah, I know we like to hate on him, but I think he's better than Justin Fields in fantasy. Tua, if he can stay healthy, even Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, like these guys when healthy, I think they're going to be better than Justin Fields. Also my last, I don't know. I go back and forth on it. I just think Lamar Jackson's too high as well, just because he can't stay healthy. Obviously he has a skill, and when he's on. And we talked about his arm. Obviously this is for fantasy purposes. So when he's healthy, he can also run the ball, and that gives you points. But to be number 4, I think Burrow should be ahead of him. I think Herbert should be ahead of him. Yeah, I just can't have him that high yet, because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. This is obviously potential and ceiling, but I don't know, man. I don't know. What do you think about it?
And these rankings will move, by the way. These rankings, this is not their final rankings. They're going to 100% move. It's going to be fun, but it's fun to talk about. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Allen, I love it, number 1, because, like, dude, he is just so good with his feet. He's so good with his arm. He's so good at everything he does. Lamar Jackson, for me, is way too high. He just is so injury prone. I feel like if you took this guy at a spot that you would have to go and get him, right? I just don't think it's going to be super worth it. Okay. And there's no world in which I'm taking him over Burrow. Like, Burrow is still, last time I checked, Burrow is still throwing to T. Higgins and Chase. As long as that's happening, right, I don't really care, right? Like, he's going to get his points. He can be mobile. Justin Herbert, I really do think, Herbert is really going to enjoy. I really believe he's going to enjoy his Kellen Moore. I really think that new offensive coordinator. I like Dak Prescott, not at all, right? Like, I don't like Dak Prescott. Every time I saw Dak Prescott do something well, I thought, ooh, that's Kellen Moore. So I think that Herbert is going to have a great year. He didn't have a great year last year, I'm not going to lie, but I think he'll have a great year this year. Justin Fields, this one's tough, because I see where you're coming from, because I don't think he's earned top 10. I agree with you there. Having said that, the flash in the pan that we saw for like 4 weeks was stupid. Where, like, everyone knew he was going to run the ball, and then he did it. And he got like 40, like he got a 40-yard touchdown like 3 weeks in a row. Now, is he going to continue doing that? No, there's no way. Right. Every NFL team is going to game plan for that. But I think the reason he's this high is that flash in the pan argument. And if you're drafting it, I will say this, I would not get him probably this high that as of yet. But if you were drafting a team and you're in, like, round number, 7, maybe 8 or something, and he's still there, like, start thinking about him. But yeah, Justin Fields this high, he just hasn't shown it to me yet. He just hadn't shown it to me yet. I would take Lawrence, 100% of him. I would also probably take Daniel Jones. Is tough for me, only because Daniel Jones' receiving core did not get better, and the whole iffy situation with Saquon. I want to see that situation solved before I'd commit to Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones is not the quarterback that he should be. He's not getting those yards that he would without Saquon Barkley. So Daniel Jones to me is also too high. I would take Trevor Lawrence above both those guys. If you look at what Trevor Lawrence did last season, he is going to have a stellar year this year as long as that continues. And I don't see it not getting better. I mean, Doug Peterson came in. He's done a fantastic job. He made this team believe. You watch this team, they're hyped. They're having fun. They played hard in Kansas City. They had one too many mistakes. You can't make that many mistakes against the Chiefs. They're going to make you pay. I really do think he's going to be great. I'm glad Geno was outside the top 10. That was a big fear of mine. I think Geno was totally flash in the pan. Everybody knows, all right, Justin, he's going to throw the ball.
I would put him in over Fields.
Yeah, but there's a couple guys I might put over. Like, I don't know how you don't put Aaron Rodgers. I don't like Rodgers. Like we've sat here and said I don't like Rodgers, but with his new weapons like Garrett Wilson, like I don't know how Rodgers, he's still effective. He can still throw the ball deep. That's one guy I might jump into that top 10 for points. Like, he's a guy that gets drafted every year, and when he does have great years, he can do some really, really, really good things and really impressive things with the football. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Fields, I will say this, if teams can't figure out those legs, because he's fast. That kid is fat, and he's big. You're right. He's a big old boy. Like, that's the thing. That's why guys like Allen have not been injured yet, because he's a big old boy. Justin Fields is a big old boy. Like, when you look at Lamar Jackson, yes, Lamar Jackson's fast, but he is not like a girthy, thick dude. Like he's just fast and lightning quick and lanky and tall. And those are the types of QBs that if you're running with the ball, you're a little bit more injury prone. The reason that a guy like Patrick Mahomes is a bigger, stronger dude than most. When you think big, strong quarterback, you don't think Patrick Mahomes. When you see him get hit, it really never looks like Patrick Mahomes getting hit that hard. Sure. And because he's such a big dude. It's like Ben Roethlisberger, you know, he's not obviously that big, but I remember Big Ben, like, you know, like people would go and one guy back there, like, I'm sacking the quarterback. And Big Ben would be like, dude, I'm 300 pounds. Like, you're not going to get me down, dude. You're just going to bounce off. But we're going to keep talking about these rankings coming up. Keep listening. We love talking fantasy football. It's definitely going to be a staple on the show, but man, I'm so glad fantasy football is back. Like I'm so fired up.
Like it's better than all the fantasy sports out there. It keeps you so engaged with the NFL season too. Like we're Rams or you're a Rams fan, I'm a 49er fan, but it keeps you engaged with the rest of the league. So like if there's a random Thursday night matchup, I'm tuning in because I got guys on my fantasy team that are going, you know, and that's obviously the purpose of it. And it's made this league even more strong and it's solidified it's king, right? So it's solidified its spot in American sports. And so I love it, man. I can't wait to do mock drafts with you. It's going to
be so much fun. Jason the Showman Stroman might join us. My boy, Mitchy Muffins. He's a big listener to the podcast. He makes fun of all of the words that I mispronounce, which to his credit are a lot. And then when I butcher a word, I butcher it hard. Like he was going off on me because I said, boy, I forgot. I already forgot the word because I never say it. I don't know why I went outside of my comfort. I don't know why I went outside of my like my word box. I don't know what you'd call that, like my vocabulary. And I used a word that was just like, vehemently. I said vehemently, and he's like, dude, you say that word so terribly. I don't know how I said it at the time, but it was just bad. He let me know.
That's how you say it, though. It's your word. You've given it its own identity, its own definition. So Mitchy Muffins. Stop.
I love that dude. We got to have him on. He plays fantasy football. He's surprising because, and one of the things he does really well, and these are the kinds of guys you need in your league. Like 100% you need this dude in your league because he will make picks. Like he'll kind of watch people and see what they're doing and he'll make informed picks, but he is not afraid to bust up your draft. Like if he sees what you're going for, like if you got 3 running backs and he knows you're going receiver and he's between running back and receiver, he'll look at your team and be like, I'm taking that receiver you want. You know what I mean? And it's good for fantasy football because it's terrible. You know, yeah, I know you know, but it makes you have to trade, right? Like it makes you have to talk to people and say, like, look, dude, I need that receiver. I need this receiver. I need to go get this guy. It's so much fun to draft with this dude. I love it. I got my boy Jeff. He's a huge fan. Maybe we'll have to get these guys on, but I can't wait. Fantasy football is so great. NFL is so great. And I can't wait for this drama to just continue to build because I feel like much like baseball, right? As we're seeing right now with baseball, there are so many contenders. There's so many teams in the hunt. I really think in football, you're going to have those few teams that tank, like the Arizona Cardinals. Like if you're a Cardinals fan, strap in, buy all the nachos, get the Buffalo Wild Wings Premier membership so you can just have wings delivered every Sunday and just nom. You know what I mean? Just make yourself feel better. If you're a Cardinals fan, this ain't your year, dude. Like this is not your year and it's okay. But I feel like there's a lot of teams that did load up, right? That went and got that QB1, that went and got that receiver. Like even you just mentioned, I don't think DJ Moore is necessarily the solution, but when you look at a team like the Bears who had like a couple weapons, like adding a DJ Moore does not hurt. Right. It's going to make those other weapons better. Yeah. And so when you look at certain teams that have made those kinds of moves that are adding these pieces, all of a sudden, you know, a guy like Kyle Pitts, even, well, now he's got a quarterback, maybe, right? This quarterback, he had a couple games that started last year. Let's see what he can do this next year. I read a crazy stat about him that he was throwing like 16 deep balls and one of them was catchable. Like one of them was like legitimate catchable, like no shade at Marcus Mariota. That guy is a hard worker. I got a lot of respect for Marcus Mariota, not because he's great by any stretch of imagination, but just his story, everything, like just the way he carries himself. It's awesome. Having said that, a guy like Kyle Pitts, like we're going to see some of these teams start to compete. You look at a division with like the Saints that are expected to win. That's wide open. Right. I mean, there's going to be so many teams in the hunt. I can't wait to watch it. Moving right along. Big Z, the NBA, dude. It's madness. It's stinking madness. Talk to me about what's happening. It feels like
madness.
Every team is making moves. Every team. Talk to me, dude.
I feel like every team besides the team that should be making a move made a move. The Blazers did not trade Damian Lillard, and they had a meeting yesterday, and Damian Lillard is still letting them giving them their faith in saying, you know what, I believe that you guys are going to build a contender. You're going to be like, I'm like, dude, you got to go somewhere where you're going to win. Like, I don't know how long you're going to keep believing them. But yeah, I mean, they drafted a great guy in Scoot Henderson, but oh my gosh, like I feel so bad for him because he's such a good guy and he's so loyal to the franchise. So I just feel bad. But man, some of the craziest trades we've seen, I think that one of the biggest ones, in my opinion, is the Boston Celtics and the Wizards. The Celtics, they shipped off Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies as a 3-team trade, and they got Kristaps Porzingis back. And we were talking earlier about what the Celtics need to do. We were a big proponent of shipping off Jaylen Brown, kind of resetting, saying, Jason Tatum, you're the guy. But Marcus Smart, yes, he's a talent, but he's more of a locker room presence to that team. And they went with talent over locker room presence. They said, Tatum, Brown, this is your team now. It was Smarts in the locker room. Now you guys need to step up your leadership game, and we're going to ship him away, but we're going to give you talent, a lot more talent in exchange for Marcus Smart. Kristaps Porzingis, if you guys forget, when he was drafted by the Knicks, he was one of the best players in the league. He's a 7-footer who can shoot threes and can ball handle and can finish around the rim, a great defender, but he's been plagued with injuries. But last year was actually his best year in the league. He played 65 games, which nowadays, if you only miss 17 games, you're good. You're playing max amount of games in the NBA. But what was really impressive about him is that he shot 39% from three last year, up 31% from the 2021-2022 season. So what that gives the Celtics is a big that can space out the floor. You still have Al Horford, who can stay in the key, who can still play defense, but you have guys that you can now kick it out to. And they needed that against the Heat, because the Heat, they were able to lock down Tatum. They were able to lock down Brown. And who else did the Celtics have to give the ball to? Now they have Kristaps Porzingis, who can play anywhere on the floor. I think that he's going to be great for the Celtics. And I think that they're by far the favorite to win the championship this next year. I would say that they're my favorite as of now. The dumbest trade, in my opinion, was the Warriors and the Wizards. The Warriors traded away Jordan Poole and got Chris Paul back.
Oh boy.
And what were we talking about the whole time the Wizards or the Warriors played the Lakers? That the Warriors were just too small. The Lakers, just went inside, and no one could stop Anthony Davis. No one could stop LeBron James. They would just switch Steph Curry onto him, and they would just drive in. They would get fouled, they get free throws, they'd finish around the rim. The Warriors just got smaller with the addition of Chris Paul. Chris Paul, we've talked about it on this show. He's not a winner. He's not a good leader, in our opinions, and he always gets hurt in the playoffs. Every single year he gets hurt at mid-round, and he lets his team down, and they don't move on. Chris Paul last year had the worst year of his career. He had his highest assist to turnover ratio, which was 4 turnovers or assists per turnover, which is terrible for him. He only shot only 4% of his field goal attempts came in the restricted area. So that means he can't finish in the paint anymore. He has to shoot outside, and his field goal percentage has dipped because of that. I think that the Warriors think that they can keep everyone together for one last hurrah. They're going to bring Clay back. They're going to bring Draymond back, and they have Steph. And now they're going to add Chris Paul into the mix. I don't know, man. I just think that it's a terrible move. I think that Jordan Poole now is out of a toxic situation because him and Draymond Green had that drama. I think that he is now for sure the 100% the guy in Washington, and they can start building their team around him, and he's going to thrive over there because he's going to be the best player on a pretty bad team, but he's going to get to still showcase his talents and not have to worry about guys punching him in the face like Draymond did. So I think the Warriors drop. I think this made them worse. And Chris Paul is also an aging player in this league. It's not like he can give you 30 to 35 minutes a game, but this trade is making him do that because they lost Poole. They don't have a guy to replace him in the starting lineup. It's going to be Paul. So I just don't think that his body can handle it. And I think that they're going to move down in the West because of it.
Yeah, 100%. When I saw that trade, I almost thought it was a typo. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't necessarily. And I feel like somebody listens to this podcast maybe like, why do these guys like Chris Paul? It's not a like or a dislike thing. Okay, it's at some point when you're on a team. When he was with, like, I think it was the Hornets way back in the day, right? Like when he was with the Hornets way back in the day, it was like, oh, he just can't get a decent team around him. Look, and he's carrying them to the playoffs, but he can't get a decent team around him if he only had a decent team, right? And then supposedly he got traded to the Lakers and they shut that down. But then he went to the Clippers, and all of a sudden, you know, Paul George and all the Blake Griffin when he was doing better, right? And he had this like Clippers team that was supposed to do it, and they had Doc Rivers, the amazing coach, and they're supposed to do it, and they just never did it. They never even got close to doing it. But for some reason, Chris Paul still got a pass. Well, it's not Chris Paul's fault, right? It's the whole team. It's not a leadership issue, right? But at the same time, when he was with Charlotte, it was like, no, he needs that talent. Well, now he has the talent. So now what's your excuse? Right. And then he goes to Phoenix, right? And he's got Booker with him. And he's got a very talented, like Ayton, who's supposed to be the star, who didn't have a good year. I realize that. But then Kevin Durant comes. And what happens? He gets injured. If it's not one thing, it's another. I'm not saying it's his fault that he got injured. All I'm saying is every year it's something new. Every year it's something different. Every year he's supposed to be the guy that makes a difference, that's a great leader, that makes an impact, and he is yet to do it. He is yet to go and get that ring. He's yet to go and get that W. And when you're a point guard, it's almost, to me, being a point guard. Wow, that was terrible. Mitchy Muffins, I hate you. I know you're going to make fun of me. It's so funny. I love that guy. Regardless, point guard, man, I can't believe that. What is that? Anyways, when you're a point guard in the NBA, right, it's almost like when you're a quarterback. Right. When you're a quarterback in the league, you have your hands on the ball the most. And that is like NBA, right? Like when you're in the NBA and you're the point guard, right? You have that ball, your hands are on that ball every possession. And you are dictating what play is going down. You're dictating the flow of the game. And so for me, they should be held to that higher standard, right? Like you don't get mad at your center for not dribbling well. That's not his role. There are some who do it. That's why Jokic is a freaking freak, right? That's why he's a freak. That's why that guy balls, because he can dribble, he can pass, he can dunk, he can shoot like this, like just way back behind his head. Like he can do all the things that so many people can't do. But when you're a point guard, you're expected to do certain things. And so for me, this trade makes absolutely no sense. He's not a strong enough shooter to spread out the floor more. So that's not going to help you, right? Klay Thompson, you already had your floor spreaders. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. I know Klay had a bit of a rough year, a little bit of a rough go last year, but I don't see Chris Paul as an improvement as a shooter over Klay Thompson. His size is certainly not going to help you. You look at a team like the Lakers, like the Kings, that are going to be there again. We've talked about that good young team that's building, that's still drafting. They still got plenty of picks. They're still there. I don't get this move at all. I definitely like the Celtics. I agree with you on that. When they got rid of Smart, I just thought there was one too many ball handlers in that locker room. Yep. There's one too many ball handlers, one too many shooters. I think Smart was the right move. And I think it's also good, if I'm being 100% honest, I think it's also good for the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies are in a place right now where they need a locker room guy. They need a guy who can come and be like, this is about basketball. There's a lot of people in the league who don't like Marcus Smart. What we do know about Marcus Smart is that he's dedicated to the game of basketball. Yeah, he might get into it with guys. He might get in people's faces, but he's dedicated wholly to the game of basketball. And that's exactly what the Grizzlies need. So I love that move for them. The Wizards, they kept getting picks. The Celtics got picks. I think these are two good young teams. I think the Wizards will start to come along, hopefully, as long as their management can figure it out, get some sort of a team together.
With the play-in, anything can happen.
You never know. You never know. I will say the teams that I'm really surprised that didn't make a big splash. Maybe they made a couple splashes, but they didn't make a big splash. The Sixers, right? Like you came up well short. It wasn't that close.
Yeah.
I thought
free agency opens in a couple of days, so they may not have too many tradable assets, and I think they're trying to get James Harden to come back right now.
Okay.
But yeah.
I just thought they'd make a splash. I thought they'd make a splash. Some young, like I thought maybe, and I know this is probably showing my inexperience with the NBA. I thought maybe like a Jordan Poole. Like if you go get a young guy who can maybe spread the floor,
True.
You can kind of get him in check. Go get a young shooter from somewhere. Get involved with somebody. I know the Knicks were looking to get the gentleman that was traded to the Suns. Oh my goodness, I just gapped on his name. Bradley Beal. Beal. Yeah. I know that the Knicks were looking for a guy like that. That didn't happen. So I'm looking at a couple of these teams in the Eastern Conference that they were there at the end, quote unquote, but they weren't really there at the end. Right? Like they came up short. So I did think that was interesting. And then of course, I couldn't agree more with you, Big Z. I have no idea what the Trailblazers are doing. You got teams that are willing to give up solid packages. Yeah, you're not going to win next year. You're not going to win next year. And even if you trade Dame, you're obviously not going to win next year if you trade Dame. You're not going to win if you have Dame. Okay? Like give one of these, go get something for like, you're going to get nothing. You're going to get nothing at the end of this. If you keep this up, right? This is like the same thing the Angels are doing with Ohtani. Like you're going to watch him walk away at the end of the day and you're going to get nothing. Year. When you could have had these amazing packages. Like last year, if you don't know anything about baseball, when he's up on the block, literally they're like, oh, the asking price is your top 4 prospects. And every team in baseball was like, okay, here you go. Who do you want? A team like the Dodgers was like, here, Bobby Miller, cool. Kendall Grove, cool. What else? What do you want? 2 like ready guys, right? Gavin Lux, here you go. Like, who do you want? Like everybody was willing to make those trades. But if you don't make those trades, you're going to get nothing. And eventually Dame is going to wake up. Eventually Dame is going to want that ring. And you can't blame him for that. I don't know. Maybe he's so loyal. It's almost to a fault.
I hope when he does wake up, it's not too late. Like I hope that he can still be an impactful player on a team because yes, right now he can be because he's just so talented, but he's getting older, man. He's like he's 33 and in basketball years, like, 33 to 35, you only got a couple of years left of being like a really impactful player, unless you're like LeBron James. So, man, I give him credit, and I have to applaud him for being so loyal to that franchise who drafted him, and like we've said, we've talked about how it's kind of ruined the NBA, all the player movement, because there's no loyalty to the fan bases. Fans don't know who to root for, and players just aren't loyal to the fans anymore. So I applaud him for that. But at some point, like, it's not like he's KD, right? Like he just bounces around to a team, a winning team, so he can win a championship. At some point, he deserves his, because he has been loyal. He is a great teammate. He takes guys under his wing and he teaches them the ways of the game. And he is great to that fan base. And I think he does deserve a ring. He should go to a competitor. And the fact that the Trailblazers were just hanging up on teams, giving them packages for him, it's just kind of an insult to Dame.
At the end of the day, at some point, like you look at some of our, especially my favorite player, your favorite player, you guys like Kobe Bryant, right? Or that you say, well, Kobe stayed. Like, isn't that what you guys want? Is for them to stay? Michael stayed. Isn't that what you want for them to stay? But look at what those teams did, right? They went out. The Bulls went out and got Rodman, right? They went out and did that. The Warriors went out. They got Clay. They got Green. They built this team of cohesion. They went out and got these pieces. The Lakers. Kobe says, a couple down years, like, dude, if you guys aren't interested in winning, I'm out. I'm loyal to the fans. I'm loyal to the purple and gold. But if you don't want to win, I'm out. They go get Pau Gasol, right? Like, you have to be willing to make those moves. You have to be willing to get somebody help. And it doesn't even necessarily need to be all-star help, but it needs to be the right help. And that comes down to your GM. And if I'm Dame, what pieces have you received in the last few years? I mean, you had a couple years where you had a pretty good backup point guard to Dame, but again, that's not going to get it done. You have a team like the Heat offering supposedly, or it was talked about or discussed at the very least, a Tyler Hero and some other picks was out there in the stratosphere as possible trades. If that is the case, I'm not saying it is the case, but if that was the case, if those were the types of trades, a Tyler Hero and picks, I mean, that's nice. That is nice. You're getting good pieces. You're still going to put butts in the seats. You're still going to sell tickets. I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know what Dame's doing, because at some point, if your team is not going to win, if they're not going to put together a championship team, then you got to go. You got to go. When LeBron went back to Cleveland, And obviously we cheer for him because he's a Laker right now and we're homers. But when he went back to Cleveland and was able to win one there, it was almost a case study of why he should have never left in the first place, because they did do it. Right. And maybe I guess proved his point. So when he went back, they decided to get him all these pieces. But at the end of the day, he still won one in Cleveland. Cleveland was willing to make those moves. It seems like Portland is never and will never be willing to make those moves. Right. They're going to have to prove us wrong at this point. And I do feel bad for Dame. I really do. Moving right along the MLB, dude. It has been crazy. Golly. If you're listening to this podcast, that's right. I just said golly. That's right. If you're listening to this golly shucks. Yeah, that was terrible. If you're listening to this podcast, God, I cannot talk tonight. I just can't speak tonight. I just can't do it. Mitchie's so in my head. I love that guy. Listen. If you're the MLB, you've got to start watching. You've got to start watching. There's so much craziness that is happening in the MLB right now. All of these games, all of these teams, game after game, it's close. Extra innings, home runs, people bombing the ball, crazy comebacks. It just seems like no team is ever out of it. It's just so much fun to watch. And then you look at a guy like De La Cruz, right? Bursting on the scene for the Reds. Dude's hitting 315, and there's videos of him absolutely just like what appears to be breaking baseballs off of his bat, just crushing balls. Like Big Z, I would tell the people, man, we're watching this insanity.
Well, yeah, he's the youngest player in 50 years to hit for the cycle, which is crazy. Like, how many great players have we had in the last 50 years in the MLB? He's the first player since 1903 to record 20 hits, 5 stolen bases, and 3 home runs in his first 15 career games. Like, the guy is just electric. Like, when they brought him up, they won 12 games in a row. Like, that's because of his impact, his direct impact on the game, the way, how ferociously he runs the bases, how he attacks the ball when he hits.
Yes, sir.
He is having fun too. Like, that's the thing.
Yep.
And it's something that it's growing throughout that, it's spreading throughout that clubhouse, and it's really been infectious for that Reds team. And it's put the Reds on the map, which is really cool. Right. So like, that's one of the first highlights now on SportsCenter is the Cincinnati Reds. When's the last time I said that? I don't know. It's been a long time since Ken Griffey Jr. joined the team, and that's been since the year 1999. So I think it's amazing. Another great shout out tonight. We have Shohei Ohtani, who's just a beast. He's hit 2 home runs tonight, also while striking out 10 batters because he's a pitcher. Like, what is this? Like, what universe are we living in where we have guys who can hit 2 home runs and still strike out 10 guys? Elly De La Cruz just comes on the scene. He's lighting teams up. Ronald Acuna has 34 stolen bases already, and we're just in June. Like, this is some of the best talent I've seen throughout the league, spread out through the league in a very long time. And this is why I believe that baseball is just continuing to grow in popularity, because so many teams have such good young talent, and it's going to be there for a long time because they're starting to lock them up on long-term deals. I can't.
It's my fault, dude. It's my fault. I think it's contagious. I screwed us for the whole podcast.
I think it's super fun, man. It's really fun to watch. Shout out to the Reds again for giving this guy a chance, for calling him up finally and letting him just play in the show and just letting him light the world on fire. It's fun, man.
It's such a good time. By the way, the Reds, my favorite part about the Reds is that they're in first place in their division at the moment by like half a game, and they still have a negative 20 differential. Like, that's how madness the season is right now. Yeah, like, they're above 500.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Their differential is not bad. They got blown out a couple games. Like, we don't care.
It doesn't matter.
We're still first place. It's one loss. It's one loss. This ain't on aggregate. Nobody's keeping track of score. You know, it's one loss. We're good. You know, it's so good. It's so good. I love it. By the way, congratulations. Shout out to LSU. They won the College World Series. So much fun to watch. It was wild. Florida like smashed them. You think, oh, like Florida's got all the momentum. And LSU came back and smashed them right back. They're like, oh, no, this is hard. Yeah.
It's
like
crazy.
The game before was like 25-3. And then LSU's like, we don't care. Just one game. We just shrug that off.
Exactly.
Shrug that off, come back, win the next night. Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Stat guys don't know what they're talking about.
I love it, man. That's like the most college baseball I've watched this year. I watched a good amount of the whole tournament. And it was really cool to watch. Like the Wake Forest LSU series was great. All of Florida's Oral Roberts versus Oregon was a great story. Just because it's baseball, like, you know, in the MLB, you have the teams that a lot of people don't think are going to make it. Same thing applies to college baseball. You have all those small programs that have a chance because baseball is so random, and no one really looks at these small programs until these tournaments are put on the big networks. So I love it. College baseball is really fun to watch, and it's so weird hearing like metal bats, like when the ball hits the bats when they're batting. It's so weird to me because I'm so used to Major League Baseball and bats, and so like the sound is it's just funny to me. But I didn't know, I always like ask myself, imagine if like MLB should have a home run derby where they allow them to use metal bats. That would be so cool. And just see like the balls just fly. I don't think it ever ends. I don't think so.
I think you'd have to do that somewhere like a giant stadium where like the ball wouldn't kill anybody. Cause I don't know how far that ball would travel.
Oh, it'd go far, dude.
That's the thing. I think it'd be a problem because they would for sure do damage to a stadium if it wasn't open. Like it would have to be an open stadium because that ball's going to hit whatever wall is there. It's going to hit it hard and fast. But I'm down.
That'd be so cool.
Like that would be so cool. Fun. Yeah.
It'd be great entertainment. Like
you always have to go to like an airport. Just go to like an airport and like shut it down for like an hour. Just
they have
like
the money. They have the money.
Yeah, exactly. Just somewhere you can like just open space. Dude, that's like the epitome. That's another word I used to screw up. I used to say this, the epitome. So funny. Anyway, epitome. Look at it's terrible. I don't know why I'm putting myself on blast, but the epitome of what we're talking about right now is the fact that the NL Central, every game, every team right now, from first to last, is within 8 games of each other, and we are only in July. Like if you are an NL Central fan, I don't care if you're a Cardinal. My father-in-law is a Cardinal fan, and he is like Mr. Doom and Gloom all year long. And then the Cardinals always make the playoffs, and they're not doing great. I'm not gonna lie, but there's still 8 games out in July. Like it's not even July. We're at the end of June. Like they've got plenty of time. You've got plenty of time to gain ground. Like a lot of these teams are close. There's very few teams that are out of it. I mean, the Rays are still hot. But even them, they just went back to down to the Diamondbacks tonight. So, I mean, this thing is wide open. If you're not watching baseball, you really need to go enjoy people like Shohei Ohtani, who are just doing insane things. If I have another person come up to me and say, well, Babe Ruth did. No. Okay.
No, Babe Ruth didn't do that.
No. Shohei, thank you. Shohei is doing what nobody has ever done before. He's doing it to the whole entire world. Everybody knows he's a baller, and that's just what he does. It was so funny, by the way, too. I had to check the score right now as soon as you said Ohtani did something. I was like, but did they win? And they did win. They won. The Angels won 4-2 tonight. We're filming this on Tuesday night. But the bases were loaded, 1 out. And I was like, are they going to blow this? Is this going to be another night when it's like Shohei strikes out 10 and hits a home run and does everything he could possibly do? And the Angels lost. You know, like the line against the Dodgers, you know, it's like, dude, the guy threw like 6 innings, allowed 1 earned run. By the way, the Angels lost 2-0. So
terrible.
It is what it is. This has been a fun episode. You heard us mess up all of our words. You heard us talk some NFL, heard us talk some NBA, talk some fantasy football. I'm telling you, Jason the Showman Stroman, Mitchy Muffins, if you're listening, we're going to get you guys on here. We're going to do some mock drafts. It's going to be so much fun. Big Z, say bye to the people.
People, especially Jason and Mitch, I'm gonna beat you guys in fantasy. That's it. It's done. So
wow.
I hope you're listening, and I'm challenging you right now. So
wow,
that's it.
Might have to get a couple more people on it. Just do our own Brevity League. Might have to just get couple more people.
Maybe
some Brevity.
We'll start with the mock draft. Join our league. We'll let you know.
Go follow us on Instagram. Go comment on our YouTube. Give us that follow. Give us that subscribe. That'll be the best way. We're on there. We don't have anybody behind us. Okay. Yeah. We got like 19 followers on Instagram, right? Nobody's behind us. Okay. If you comment, it's us. Okay. It's us. Spoiler alert. Follow us on whatever you are. We are Brevity Sports. We are so pumped you've joined us. As always, we will see you next week. Again, stay tuned because we are going to start dropping some special episodes as sports starts to gear up a little bit more with baseball and football. Honestly, those are, we love us some hockey, as you heard. We love us some NBA, but man, baseball and football, a special place in our hearts for sure. We love all sports. Let's be honest. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe, everybody. Have a great night. We'll end this as we always do with a very simple thank you for listening.